It didn't come out in a press conference, it didn't come from police, and it definitely didn't come from the industry. It came from a mother, and what King Von's mother just revealed has people looking at everything differently because, according to her, the story everyone thought they understood might not be the full story at all. Listen, for years, people have argued about what really happened that night. Videos, reports, witness accounts. Everybody had a version. But now, the person closest to Von is stepping forward with something that hits deeper than speculation. She's not talking like a fan. She's not talking like an outsider. She's talking like someone who believes her son was set up. And the moment those words started circulating, everything changed. Fans are shocked. Emotions ran high because this isn't just another theory floating online. This is coming from someone who lived through the loss. Someone who's been watching quietly while the world built its own narrative. But here's the thing, she didn't just question what happened, she questioned the industry itself. Who knew what? Who was around? Who stayed silent? And why certain? Details never added up from the beginning, and once she started connecting those dots, people started listening differently, because now it's not just about one night anymore. It's about what might have led up to it, what might have been ignored, and what might still be hidden. And the biggest question now, if she's right, then how much of the story have we been getting wrong this whole time? The moment those words started spreading, the timeline everyone thought they understood suddenly didn't feel so solid anymore. Because now, instead of looking at one night, people started looking at everything leading up to it, and that's where things began to feel different. According to what King Von's mother is suggesting, the focus shouldn't just be on the incident itself, but on the environment around him in the days before. Listen, she's not pointing randomly. She's speaking with intention, and one of the first things she brings up is how quickly everything escalated that night. Too quickly, almost like tension was already there before anything even went down. Fans are shocked hearing this perspective because it shifts the story from a sudden situation to something that may have been building quietly in the background. And once that idea lands, people start asking new questions. Who was around Von in those final hours? Who knew where he was going? And more importantly, who didn't try to stop anything? Because according to her tone, calm but firm, there are gaps, moments that don't feel explained, movements that don't fully make sense when you line them up side by side. And while she doesn't throw out wild accusations, she keeps circling back to one feeling. Something wasn't right. Now here's where it gets deeper. She also touches on the industry side of things, not directly calling anyone out, but questioning how certain situations are handled when artists are moving at that level. Because by that time, Von wasn't just another rapper coming up. He was rising fast, getting attention, building momentum, and with that kind of visibility comes a different kind of pressure. One insider reportedly reacts to her statement saying, when artists get to that point, they're not just moving for themselves anymore. That line hits because it suggests there are layers behind the scenes that fans don't always see. Business, relationships, expectations, and sometimes tension. Back online, reactions start pouring in. Some people fully support her, saying a mother's intuition shouldn't be ignored. Others push back, saying emotions can shape how situations are remembered. But either way, the conversation doesn't stay quiet. It grows fast. One fan writes, "She's seeing something we not seeing." Another responds, "Or she trying to make sense of something that don't have answers." And just like that, the divide starts forming. At the same time, people begin revisiting old clips, old interviews, old moments involving Von, looking for anything that might connect to what she's implying. And while nothing jumps out immediately, the tone of those clips starts to feel different now, because people are watching with new eyes. Even the smallest details begin to stand out. The way conversations happened, the way people moved around him, the way certain situations played out publicly. Things that once seemed normal now get questioned. And once that shift happens, it's hard to go back. Inside the circle closest to Von, emotions are heavy, because for them, this isn't just discussion, it's personal. One voice reportedly says, "We've been feeling like something was off, but nobody wanted to say it like that." That statement spreads quietly, but it adds weight to everything. And still, she doesn't rush her words. That's what stands out the most. She speaks slowly, carefully, like someone who knows the impact of what she's saying, and isn't saying it just to create noise. And that's exactly why people are paying attention, because this doesn't feel like speculation. It feels like concern. And as more people start looking back at the timeline, rethinking what they believed, and questioning the spaces around Vinda in those final moments, one idea keeps coming back stronger than before. What if the story everyone accepted was only the surface? And once that idea settles in, the focus shifts again, this time toward the details people thought they already understood, because now, instead of accepting the sequence of events at face value, people start pulling it apart, step by step, moment by moment. And according to what King Von's mother is suggesting, some of those steps don't line up the way they should. Check this out. She doesn't just question what happened, she questions how certain information surfaced so quickly afterward. The speed, the clarity, the way the narrative seemed to form almost immediately. And that alone raises eyebrows, because in situations like that, things are usually chaotic, unclear, still being figured out. But in this case, it felt organized. That's the word people keep coming back to. Organized. And once that word gets attached to the situation, it changes how everything else is viewed. Now people start asking, who was speaking first? Who controlled the story early? And why did certain details become accepted facts before anyone had time to really process what happened? Fans are shocked revisiting those early moments, because with this new perspective, the timeline feels different, not wrong, but incomplete. Like pieces were missing, or maybe placed in a way that shaped how the public understood everything from the start. At the same time, another layer begins to surface. Footage. Clips that were once just seen as evidence are now being looked at differently. People start slowing them down, analyzing movements, watching who's present, who's reacting, and who seems to already know what's going on. And while nothing definitive jumps out, the feeling starts to build that not everything is as random as it once seemed. One analyst reportedly says, "It's not always what you see, it's what you don't see that matters." And that line sticks because it captures exactly what's happening now. People aren't just watching the footage, they're questioning what's missing from it. Meanwhile, the industry conversation grows louder, because if what she's implying has even a small amount of truth behind it, then it's not just about one situation, it's about how artists are protected or not protected, and when they're moving at a high level. And that's a conversation a lot of people have avoided for a long time. One insider allegedly says, "There's a lot going on behind the scenes that fans don't understand." And while that statement is vague, it adds to the tension, because it suggests there are layers to the industry that don't always show themselves until something goes wrong. Back online, reactions continue to split. Some people are fully locked into her perspective, saying she's connecting dots that others ignored. Others remain skeptical, pointing out that without direct proof, it's all interpretation. But even the skeptics admit one thing: the questions she's raising are hard to ignore. Emotions ran high again, because this isn't just about facts, it's about trust. Trust in what was reported, trust in what was shown, and trust in whether the full story was ever really told. Inside Von's extended circle, the mood remains heavy. One voice reportedly says, "We ain't saying we got all the answers, but we know what don't feel right." And that feeling, uncertainty mixed with instinct, is exactly what's driving the conversation forward. And through all of it, she stays consistent, not loud, not dramatic, just steady. That steady tone makes everything hit harder, because it doesn't feel like she's trying to convince people. It feels like she's asking them to look closer. And as more eyes turn back to the timeline, the footage, and the early narrative that shaped everything, one question keeps building in the background, getting louder with every new perspective. If the story came together that fast, who was putting it together? And as that question starts circulating, something else happens. The conversation moves off the internet and into real life reactions. Because now it's not just fans talking, it's people from the streets, people from the industry, and people who were around King Von at different points in his rise. And the tone? It's not unified. Listen, some voices are backing what his mother is saying completely. They're not calling it a theory, they're calling it a possibility that deserves attention. One street voice reportedly says, "You don't move like that without people watching." That line hits different, because it suggests awareness. Like once you reach a certain level, you're no longer moving unnoticed. But here's the thing, not everybody agrees. Everybody agrees. Other voices are pushing back, saying what happened was exactly what it looked like. Nothing more, nothing less. One insider allegedly responds, "People trying to turn pain into patterns." And that statement lands just as hard, because it reflects the other side of this divide. And now, the situation isn't just about facts, it's about interpretation. Because depending on how you look at it, the same moment can mean two completely different things. And that's exactly what's happening right now. Meanwhile, the industry starts reacting, but carefully. Nobody wants to say too much. Nobody wants to step too far into something this sensitive. But behind the scenes, conversations are happening. Quiet ones, focused ones. One source reportedly says, when families start asking questions like this, people pay attention. And that attention, it doesn't go away easily. At the same time, fans are digging deeper than ever before. Old live streams, old social media posts, old interactions involving Vaughn, looking for anything that might line up with what's being suggested now. And even when they don't find clear answers, they find moments, small ones, that feel different with this new context. A look, a comment, a reaction that didn't stand out before, but now feels like it might mean something. And once that kind of analysis starts, it spreads fast, because everybody wants to be the one who notices something others missed. But here's where it gets heavier. Inside the circle closest to Vaughn, emotions aren't just high, they're complicated. Because while some people feel like these questions need to be asked, others feel like reopening everything brings pain back to the surface. One voice reportedly says, "We still healing, and now it's like we back at day one." That line carries weight because it shows the cost of these conversations. At the same time, there's another feeling growing. Frustration, not loud, but present. Because for some, it's not about proving anything, it's about understanding. About making sense of something that still doesn't sit right, even after all this time. And through all of it, Vaughn's mother continues to stand on what she's saying, not changing her tone, not adding extra drama, just staying consistent. That consistency is what keeps people listening, because it doesn't feel like she's chasing attention. It feels like she's holding on to a belief she can't ignore. Back online, the divide gets sharper. One side says, she knows more than we think. The other side says there's no proof of anything being planned, and neither side backs down, because at this point, it's not just about the situation, it's about what people choose to believe. And that's what makes this moment so intense, because the facts haven't changed, but the perspective has. And once perspective changes, everything else follows. As the conversation continues to grow, as more people weigh in, and as the gap between belief and skepticism gets wider, one thing becomes clear. This isn't just about finding answers anymore. It's about deciding which version of the story people are willing to accept. And just when it feels like the conversation can't go any deeper, it does. Because now the focus isn't just on what happened or how it happened, it's on what never got fully explained. The gaps, the silence, the moments that were accepted without being questioned. And according to what's being implied by King Von's mother, those gaps might be where the real story sits. Listen, she doesn't come out and make wild claims, she doesn't name names, but she keeps circling one idea that certain things didn't get the attention they should have. And when someone that close to the situation keeps repeating that feeling, people start to lean in, because now it's not just about events, it's about what was overlooked. One detail that keeps coming back into discussion is how quickly everything moved afterward. Reports, reactions, narratives forming almost instantly. And while that might seem normal in today's fast media cycle, she's questioning whether that speed left room for anything to be missed, or even ignored. And once that question is out there, it doesn't go away. Fans are shocked again, because it forces them to rethink how they consumed the situation in real time, what they believed, what they accepted, and whether they ever stopped to question how complete that information really was. At the same time, industry voices continue to react, but more quietly now. Less public statements, more behind-the-scenes conversations. One insider allegedly says, sometimes the story that reaches the public first becomes the only story people accept. And that line hits because it suggests that timing doesn't just inform the narrative, it can shape it. Meanwhile, people close to Vaughn are still dealing with the emotional side of all this. Because while the world debates theories and timelines, for them it's still personal, still raw. One voice reportedly says, "We not trying to change nothing, we just trying to understand it better." That statement reflects something deeper than speculation. It reflects the need for clarity. Back online, the divide hasn't softened, it's sharper. Some people are convinced there's more beneath the surface. Others stand firm that everything has already been explained. And neither side is backing down, because at this point, it's not just about facts, it's about belief. And belief is hard to change once it's set. But here's the thing, even the people who disagree are still paying attention, still watching, still listening. Because no matter where they stand, they can feel that something about this conversation is different. It's not loud for the sake of being loud. It's not dramatic for the sake of attention. It's steady, consistent, and that consistency keeps pulling people back in. And through all of it, King Von's mother doesn't shift her stance. She doesn't try to convince. She doesn't escalate. She just stays grounded in what she feels. And that's what makes it powerful, because it doesn't feel like she's trying to rewrite the story. It feels like she's trying to complete it. And as more people sit with that idea, as more conversations unfold, and as more perspectives get added into the mix, one reality becomes harder to ignore. This situation may never have been as simple as it first seemed. And even now, with everything that's been said, everything that's been shown, and everything that's been debated, there's still something missing, something unresolved, something that keeps this conversation alive long after people thought it was over. And that leads to one final question that nobody seems able to answer clearly. If there really are gaps in the story, then who benefits from those gaps staying exactly where they are? And now everything circles back to you. Because after hearing all of this, after breaking down every layer, every question, every gap, there's still no clear answer. And that's exactly why this conversation refuses to fade. You've seen how King Von's mother stepped forward, not with noise, not with accusations, but with questions that hit deeper than anything else. Questions about timing, about the people around him, about how the story formed so quickly, and whether everything was ever fully explained. And now the pressure is on, not just on the industry, not just on the people who were there, but on the narrative itself. Because if even a small part of what she's suggesting holds weight, then that means something was missed, or ignored, or maybe never meant to be seen clearly in the first place. Fans are still shocked, emotions ran high, and the divide is real. Some of you believe she's connecting dots that others refuse to look at. Others feel like this is a painful situation being reinterpreted without concrete proof. But here's the truth. You don't stay silent on something like this unless it matters. So now I'm asking you directly, do you think there are still pieces of this story that haven't been revealed yet? Or do you believe everything that needed to be known was already put out there? And more importantly, if there are gaps in what the public was told, do you think that's just how fast news works today? Or do you think someone somewhere had a reason for keeping certain details from coming to light? I want your real opinion. No filter, drop it in the comments, because this is bigger than just one story. It's about how truth, media, and the industry all collide. And if you're paying attention like that, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe, and stay locked in. Because if anything else surfaces, any new detail, any new voice, you already know you're gonna hear it here first. Here first.